Hello and welcome back to the program We Are Selling. We Are Selling is now bringing you great tips and information each week where not only you can profit from that knowledge but change the situation you are in. And I think we all know in these changed times, change of market, you've got to stack the deck in your favour. And today I want to talk about the commitment fee. And the commitment fee has been brought to my attention due to a lot of agents listing a house, not selling it, and then the second agent is taking over due to the time frame. And unfortunately, if an owner feels that it's definitely not their house was amazing, it's going to be the blame on the agent. So as I take you into this, it's actually connected to last week's story. And thank you for all those people who reached out wanting to know what SaleFunder is. And I mentioned that I'd been using that myself. A lot of you know the very famous story of Robin's mum's place where we used the product. It got a result $200,000 over our expectation, and that was Robin's mum's place. And Nana's place needed to go from brown to white, coastal, and look amazing. And I got to tell you, as a educator and someone who's just been through the vendor process on behalf of the vendor, you've got to have faith in the process. There is no shortcuts to a great price. And I think sometimes we rush it to market thinking it's going to be easy, but those days are over. Showcasing real estate today, value performance advertising is the only option you have. Otherwise, you may not be the agent who transacts the deal. You'll be the one who starts it. So when I look at the commitment fee, it's very different to a normal house coming on the market and they say, well, there you go, see how you go, get me a great result, and if you don't, we're not going to do anything. The commitment fee is where you go in and you say, I'm going to do a full assessment of the property and we're going to look what it would rent for, and I'll get you a rental certificate, what it would sell for, but more importantly, how we're bringing profit to our owners at the moment is what improvements we could make that on a tax-free asset like your principal place of residence, you could get the true return on investment. Now, you've got to be very careful when you have these conversations with an owner because most Australian residents of these beautiful homes are asset-rich and cash-poor. And especially now with the cost of living going through the roof, all their money is going into their increased mortgage. So as they come to bring a property to the market, they'll say, oh no, we're not prepared to paint or gurney the house or redo the gardens or fix the deck. And it's not because they don't want to. They just know they don't have those funds. And when they don't have the funds, the embarrassment kicks in. And this is where, as professional agents, we've got to provide not only the solution, but the guidance. And I say to agents to say to the owners all the time, if you were selling a car, would you get everything out of it and get it detailed and then show the potential purchaser? Or would you just leave all your stuff in it and say, well, there it is, take it or leave it? And I think the car analogy is a good one because people have sold a car many times more than they have a home. But you wouldn't leave all your stuff in there. You would do everything to get the best results you can. But for those of you that reached out and said, well, I just don't know how it works, there's no better to bring them in themselves, Mr. Lucas McEntee from SaleFunder. Lucas, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, Lee. It's great to chat to you today.
Mate, thanks for your help, not only on the properties of my own, but there's a stack of agents you're helping out there now. Jump into what you're doing, but it just comes to my attention because I was up with Image Property in Brisbane yesterday.
Yes.
And they've had great success with your system that they actually use it for investment properties to get the tenant out and fund 6 or 8 weeks rent. And as we know, selling a property without a tenant is phenomenal, especially if you're going to style it and invest in it. But for those that have no idea how the product works or what the owner's commitments are, what is SaleFunder and how does it work?
So SaleFunder, we're a finance company. We provide finance to vendors of properties to pay for anything to do to get it ready for sale. So in Image's case, they're obviously using the funds to help cover a few mortgage payments, etc. But in the general terms, if you need to pay for styling or painting or renovations, anything to do to increase the curb value, we can provide funding for that. It's a very simple application process for the vendor. We provide funds usually within 24 to 48 hours, and we can pay funds to the vendor or agent or split. Once we've provided funds to the vendor, they don't need to have any service fees or any service costs to us. Everything's just repaid once the property's sold, and we get repaid at settlement.
Good time to catch you. You guys have just had your biggest month ever of agents using the service for the owners. What do you think the spike was? Because we're only in February. What do you think the spike was?
Yeah, part of it's more brand awareness, to be fair. We started the business 3 years ago and we didn't have any exposure to the real estate industry. Our business was direct to consumer. But over the last few years, we've built the business up and started to build a very good reputation with real estate agents. And just through word of mouth, we've had more and more agents join us the last few years. And now we're servicing thousands of real estate agencies across the country and helping tens of thousands of real estate agents. And once they get to understand how the product works, our lovely story on a current affair last year certainly helped with that as well. They then start to provide their own creative ways that they help their vendors out. And in the Images case, we didn't even think about ever helping a rental landlord. Those guys come up with that their own selves. So it's really interesting to see the different ways that agents use our finance to help their vendors out, just to help them get a better sale price.
And it's brought about a whole new conversation. As you know, Lucas, I teach that live mode, sell mode. How an owner lives in the property is very different to how it needs to look when we sell the property. And there could be a $40,000 difference in sale price. My daughter Madison, you guys look after her as well. And she's in that Maitland area, might have properties from $750,000 up to $1 million. But they style everything now. They say to the owner, you know, if you're going to choose ours, this is what it has to look like. There is no, oh yeah, pop it on, see how it goes. Because people will be listening to this right now saying, oh, this would just be used for the top end. It's actually the opposite of that, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think there's been a lot of press specifically now and in a tougher market that shows that, you know, the underprepared properties aren't moving. So if you've got a really well presented property that's Mickey Mouse and that's, you know, turned from live mode to sell mode, they are actually selling and they're getting decent prices. And we can see that as well in the value that we originally valued the property at and what it sells for. And being in a downward market, we're actually not seeing much of that downward swing because the vendors are taking better prepared properties to market and getting those better sale prices. So, you know, our range can be from a $500,000 apartment, and we've done values of properties up to 10 million. But the fact of the matter is that, like you mentioned with the car analogy, if you're not getting this house ready for sale in this tougher market, it's just going to be a tougher marketing campaign. It's going to be harder to sell. And, you know, the good properties are moving, so that the smarter agents are picking up on that. They're getting their SWAT team of people available to help the vendor get the property ready for sale. And that's a big shift in how our agents are selling properties these days.
Couple of questions for you, because I can hear our listener thinking, and they're driving along thinking, you know what, I've got a property right now that needs restyling. We've already gone through the first phase and didn't get the result. What do they actually do to activate it and get the funds, and what do they need?
Okay, so there's two ways. Our preferred option is that the agent registers with our business. It's a very simple application process. There's no paperwork required. Once the agent's registered, they can then send a request from our portal to the vendor to pay for whatever's needed to be paid for, either by cash, credit card, or in most cases, which is what we're talking about now, a loan to pay for those works. The email is personalised from that agent and that agency, so it's very much on brand and specifically to them. The vendor fills out the application, takes about 4 or 5 minutes. We do our assessment, and within a day or two, we provide funding. The other option is the vendor can just apply directly on our website. So they can just come to our website and hit apply now, fill out the form, and then they tell us who's the selling agent. It's not as a personalised approach, and it does ask them to select an agent, which does open up the opportunity for them to maybe pick someone else, which is why we feel it's not the best way to do it. But, you know, a vendor can apply directly on our website as well. And again, usually a day or two later, we've got the funding. The main thing for us, though, is that the property is to be sold as part of our credit assessment. So we can't help anyone out that's not selling their property.
So they must have an agency agreement signed with the agent in order for the funds to be released.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And let's just look at some of this costings on a helicopter scenario. I know Madison, you know, probably 6,000 to 9,000 is the average spend there on some of the entry style properties. They take 6 to 8 weeks to sell. What sort of cost is the owner looking at for that loan, which comes off the settlement funds of the property?
We've got 2 products that fit into that space. So if it's a VPA, which is really just advertising, We charge 5.9% for the first 120 days and then a further 1.5% every 30 days thereafter. We process them on a weekly basis. If it's a renovation loan where funds are to split or be paid to the vendor, we charge 6% for 90 days and then 1.5% every 30 days thereafter. So if you're looking at, an average of 10 grand and a settlement process and sale process of 3 to 4 months, you're looking at somewhere of a cost of finance between $600 and $750. So it's pretty minimal considering that the investments that we see and how they return back to the vendors. So we're usually seeing a, 50% to 100% increase in the spend back on the sale price, sometimes significantly more than that. So if they spend 10, you should get a 15, 20K return at least. But sometimes we've seen spending 20, 30 and seeing a $50,000, $100,000 return. So, and that just again reflects in the market and the quality of the property.
Yeah, and from my own experience, Robin, my wife, had two sisters involved in that particular sale where Nan was going into home care or into a retirement village. And we were obviously facilitating the sale because of our background, but we didn't want to go to them and put them on a spot and say, do you have 3 or 4 grand each? And I remember Rob going to the site, typing it in, and we qualified for $15,000 for that particular townhouse. I think we used 11 for it. But just for the record out there, for those that missed the greatest sale in the year, Nan's place is worth $900 to $950. The reserve was set at $900, and it went for $1.211. And I know I've been in real estate a long time, Lucas, but when I walked into that place again, after being Nan's place for so long and all the brown's gone, white, coastal, the styling team did so well, Decrit did the photography, I was blown away and just so passionate about my own industry again about that's how you sell real estate.
It's pretty good, isn't it? And we get, great stories like that and, goosebumps again hearing about that story, but that we've got, hundreds of situations like that across the country. The biggest result we had was $1 million increase in valuation at the top of the market last year. It was sold by the Bell office at Forestville. It was on the market for 24 hours. Now again, peak market, but we'd never seen $1 million increase in the property valuation to where we and the agent had valued it at once the vendor had spent money on getting the place ready. Now, admittedly, they did spend about 120 grand, but still incredible results that we've seen out there. And again, I just sort of feel that if an agent isn't discussing about how to get a property ready for sale, how to take it from that live mode, sell mode, and then suggesting, you don't have to suggest us. You can say, look, there are ways to pay for this at settlement because a significant of vendors still have their own money to pay for it, which is great, and they should use that cash. But it's just the alternative options for them to say, look, there's this and that available. They're not doing their job. And if they're not doing their job for their agent and protecting those assets, the guys that out there are doing their job are going to end up taking all the commission because they're really trying to help their vendors out. And that's the sort of thing that we're helping drive the industry towards, which is really satisfying.
Yeah, and this comes back to my original point. I think an owner who invests $6,000 or $9,000 in repairs and preparing the home for sale, that is their commitment fee. And then that means you may get paid your performance fee. Whereas when I see an owner who withdraws from market or doesn't do the right thing by the agent, they just had no commitment. And I think if you're committed to selling your home and you're committed to selling your property, be it investment or personal, you would do it the right way. If not, you may just be using the agent to do that. And if we look at these brilliant agents around the country, a lot of the McGrath agents have taken it on in that lower North Shore area. People say, they're top performing agents. They're doing the right thing by the owners. Of course they would style it and get it right. Otherwise, it's not going to look like a McGrath property. It's going to look like one that may or may not get sold.
We've got a very broad base of customers across the country. The concept still applies to $500,000 or $600,000 homes as it does to $5 or $6 million properties. It's the same for our VPA products. A lot of we speak to, unfortunately, they still carry it. They say, look, my market, I've got to carry the advertising, and as a business owner, that's not a very good thing for them and their business. Or they say, well, I've always carried it, or the market will always carry it, or, this product's only designed for people that don't have any money. I can tell you the guys at Pello, for example, that are giving $10,000 to $15,000 VPA, checks. There's still a 30-40% of applicants that use our service because it's convenient. So it's not just about not having the money. It's also too about the convenience aspect of it. But when it comes to the home prep, it's right across the spectrum. And that again just shows in my view, the better agents that are mentioning this to their customers. We're not talking about, full knockdown renovations. It really is just giving it that sparkle, that curb appeal, and making the property ready for sale. And that's what we're there to help. And unfortunately these days that does cost $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And, even if they have the money available, the convenience aspect of our service makes it easy for them to use it, and then helps the, agent get the best property to take to market.
Couldn't agree more. And just on that point, I've got a commercial property available and I've used SaleFunder. And the reason I've done that is ease of accounting. There's my agent. You've got my fees. You've got my photography bills. You've got my floor plan bills, and SaleFunder is in there as well. But it's for an accountancy perspective, it's like there's all my numbers. And when it settles and it's deducted, it's all in one place. So the convenience of that, and it's all tax deductible, it just makes it simple versus I'm thrown in here, where do I put it? Let the agent take care of it all.
Yep, yeah, exactly right. And if you or the agent have these sort of tools available, I mean, we're a free service, which we constantly remind agents that we don't charge them anything. And we do provide a fantastic service to they're not, agents aren't our customers, they're our partners. We want to help them help our customers, our mutual customers being the vendors. But we love working with our partners, and if they're not having a service like ours available and not offering it, then again, I think they're being left behind. And we're certainly seeing that at the moment with the amount of new inquiries we're getting out there at this stage. Well, Lucas, I want to thank you. You've been a great service to all the people I serve. How are they best to find out about the service and get onto it? Yeah, it's really simple. So just go to salefunder.com.au. It's SaleFunder. There's a page on there for agents. You can simply register, and then one of the team will get in touch to activate the account. Nice and simple. Excellent. And make sure, all our listeners, you are getting your commitment fees in these different times. There is no shortcuts to a great price. Live mode, sell mode, having the asset protected is what we do as real estate professionals. Lucas, thank you for joining us. My pleasure, Lee. Thanks a lot.